Millionaire mocks waitress. Dance this tango. I'll marry you. Her response shocked everyone. Before we begin, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is there right now. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Bruce Larson, the most talked about tech billionaire in New York. 34 years old, devastatingly handsome, and with an ego that could buy Manhattan twice over. He held a glass of champagne like he held his own empire, carelessly, confidently, as if the world existed solely for his amusement. Surrounded by Wall Street titans and society's elite, all desperate for a single moment of his attention. Amid the forced laughter and flattery, Bruce commanded the Metropolitan Grand Ballroom like a king surveying his kingdom. His custom navy suit probably cost more than most people's cars. His cold blue eyes swept across the room with calculated disinterest, that smile never quite reaching them. A man who'd been left at the altar and turned his heartbreak into armor. At his feet, carrying a silver tray through the glittering crowd, moved someone he would never notice. Kate Shawman, 26 years old, wearing the crisp white shirt and black vest that made her invisible to people like him. She wove through conversations about private jets and vacation homes, a ghost in her own life. Then it happened. The sound of champagne splashing cut through the crystalline laughter like a gunshot. Time seemed to freeze. Conversations faltered. Heads turned. Cell phones rose instinctively, sensing the birth of a viral moment. Kate stood frozen, her tray tilted at a devastating angle, staring at Bruce Larson's obviously expensive Italian leather shoes now soaked in golden liquid. When she finally managed to raise her eyes, he was looking at her with an expression that made her blood run cold. Not anger, but something far worse. Amusement. The cruel, calculated amusement of a predator who'd just spotted prey. "Well," Bruce said, his voice carrying effortlessly across the suddenly silent ballroom, "I suppose you're going to offer to pay for these?" Kate's mind screamed at her to apologize. To grovel. To disappear. That's what invisible people did. But something in his tone, the casual cruelty, the expectation of her humiliation, the way everyone waited for her to break like it was part of the evening's entertainment, something inside her snapped. "I could," she said, keeping her voice steady even as her heart hammered, "but I'm pretty sure your ego already takes up your entire budget." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Some covered their mouths to hide shocked laughter. Others leaned in closer, sensing blood in the water. This wasn't in the script. Waitresses didn't talk back to billionaires. Bruce's expression shifted, surprise flickering behind those cold blue eyes before his smile widened into something more dangerous. He stood slowly, deliberately, and Kate was acutely aware of how the crowd pressed closer, circling them like spectators at a gladiator match. "That's bold," he said softly, circling her like prey, coming from someone who serves drinks for a living. "That's rich," Kate shot back, her mother's courage flowing through her veins, coming from someone who thinks buying things makes him interesting. The ballroom held its collective breath. Bruce Larson stopped circling, his eyes narrowing. No one spoke to him this way. The orchestra, sensing the tension, stopped playing. Even the chandeliers seemed to dim, focusing all light on this impossible confrontation. Then Bruce raised the untouched glass in his other hand, smiled at his audience with theatrical precision, and announced loudly, "Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like tonight just got far more interesting." All eyes locked on him, waiting. "Since Miss..." He paused, eyebrow raised. "Shawman." "Kate Shawman," she replied, chin lifted defiantly. Something flickered across his face at the name. Recognition? Curiosity. But he recovered quickly. "Since Miss Shawman clearly enjoys making bold statements, I have a proposal for her." He turned to face her fully, and in the golden light of the chandeliers, Kate saw the challenge burning in his eyes. "If you can dance one tango with me, right now in front of everyone, I'll marry you. Consider it payment for the shoes." The crowd erupted in laughter. This was exactly the kind of absurd spectacle they'd paid thousands per plate to witness. Cell phones began recording discreetly. Tomorrow's headlines were being written in real time. Kate stood perfectly still. She should have walked away. Should have apologized and disappeared into the blessed anonymity of the New York night. But as she looked at Bruce Larson's smug, certain face, that expression that said he knew she would refuse, that he'd already won, something her mother whispered from a past echoed in her mind. Dance is in your blood, baby girl. Don't let the world make you forget who you are. Kate set down her tray with deliberate precision. She straightened her spine. And she looked Bruce Larson directly in his cold blue eyes. Get ready then, Mr. Larson, she said, extending her hand with grace that suddenly made her waitress uniform look like couture. Because you're about to learn why you should never underestimate the help. The ballroom fell absolutely silent. Laughter died on painted lips. Bruce blinked, genuinely surprised. He'd expected shame. He'd expected begging. He'd expected an easy victory. He didn't expect courage. You're saying yes, he asked, not quite believing it. I'm saying, Kate replied, her hand still extended with playful irony, I hope those expensive shoes glide well on the dance floor. For a moment, Bruce hesitated. But then, convinced this scene would still work in his favor, convinced a waitress couldn't possibly know how to dance, he accepted the challenge. He took her hand, firm, almost dominant, already asserting control. The lights dimmed dramatically. The orchestra struck up a bold, passionate tango. The crowd pressed closer, forming a circle, hungry for the spectacle. Bruce led the first step, awkward, stiff, mechanical. A man used to commanding boardrooms, not dance floors. He tried to project control, to dominate the movement, but something was wrong. Kate followed smoothly, her body responding to the music with calm, fluid confidence. Her eyes locked on his, never wavering. The contrast between them was striking and impossible to ignore. He was used to power. She was used to surviving. But she was the one who transformed the dance. With every step, Kate reclaimed something she'd lost long ago. Not just lightness, freedom. Her feet moved with surgical precision. Her hips marked the rhythm with hypnotic grace. The timid waitress vanished like smoke, replaced by a woman who owned every inch of that floor. A murmur spread through the crowd like wildfire. No one expected this. No one expected her to know how to dance. Bruce, on the other hand, started losing the rhythm. He tried to take over, pulling her more forcefully, attempting to reassert dominance. But Kate responded with subtle, devastating firmness, guiding him back to the music with movements so smooth they looked effortless. She was leading. Soft laughter began rippling through the crowd. The mighty Bruce Larson, tech billionaire and master of the universe, was being led across the dance floor by a waitress. He tried to recover, to regain control. But Kate spun suddenly, pulling him into a flawless, complex move that made professional dancers in the audience gasp. The crowd held its collective breath. Bruce almost lost his balance completely. Kate caught him, steadied him before he could fall, all while maintaining the dance's rhythm. Her expression never changed, calm, focused, almost serene. The room burst into spontaneous applause and delighted laughter. Bruce, red-faced and breathing hard, tried desperately to hide his embarrassment. "Are you enjoying yourself?" he muttered through gritted teeth. "Very much," Kate replied, her smile dangerous and beautiful. "Want to give up, Mr. Larson?" He didn't answer. But something in his eyes had changed completely. The arrogance was cracking, giving way to something new and unfamiliar. Admiration. Genuine, stunned admiration. And perhaps something more, curiosity, wonder, respect. The music swelled to its crescendo. Kate moved with pure passion now, no longer just dancing but performing. Her body told a story, of loss, of survival, of a legacy reclaimed. Every step carried a message. Every turn issued a challenge to the world that had tried to make her invisible. Bruce tried once more to take the lead. But it was far too late. The audience belonged to her now. The melody reached its peak. Kate spun firmly one final time and finished the tango with a decisive, powerful step that forced Bruce down into a kneel without him even realizing what was happening. The Metropolitan Grand Ballroom erupted in thunderous applause. People rose to their feet. Whistles and cheers echoed off the crystal chandeliers. Breathless and defeated, Bruce tried to play it cool, adjusting his jacket with trembling hands. "Not bad," he managed, his voice rough, for a waitress. Kate looked down at him, still on one knee, and gave him a half-smile that would haunt his dreams. "Not bad for a man who can't dance," she replied calmly. The crowd roared with laughter. The tension shattered into pure joy. But then a voice rang out from somewhere in the back of the ballroom, older, reverent, filled with recognition. "That explains everything. This young lady is the daughter of Benita Shawman, the legendary tango dancer." Everyone turned to Kate. The applause softened into respectful silence. Kate froze, her eyes suddenly filling with tears that she refused to let fall. But her smile stayed. Her spine stayed straight. "It's true," she said softly, her voice carrying in the hushed ballroom. "Benita Shawman was my mother." A wave of understanding swept through the crowd. Bruce remained on one knee, staring up at her with an expression of pure shock. "So you inherited her talent," he said quietly. Kate looked down at him, this arrogant billionaire on his knees before her, and shook her head slowly. "No, Mr. Larson," she replied, her voice steady and strong. "I didn't inherit her talent. I inherited something far more valuable. I inherited her courage never to bow my head to anyone." The crowd erupted again, but this time it was different. This wasn't laughter at someone's expense. This was celebration. Recognition. A standing ovation for a woman who'd been invisible just moments ago and was now unforgettable. Kate took a deep breath, fighting back tears, and let the applause wash over her like rain. Bruce, still kneeling, still processing what had just happened, reached up tentatively. But what happened next would change both their lives forever. Kate. The name had been mentioned. Her mother's legacy had been revealed. And suddenly, the entire Metropolitan Grand Ballroom felt too small, too bright, too loud. Kate took a deep breath, fighting the tears that threatened to spill. The applause continued to rain down on her like a thunderstorm, but all she could think about was her mother, pale and fragile in that hospital bed, whispering those final words. "Dance is in your blood, baby girl." She had danced, and her mother would have been proud. Bruce remained on one knee, staring up at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Shock, certainly. But there was something else lurking behind those cold blue eyes, something that looked almost like respect? "Kate, he started, his voice barely audible over the crowd. "Kate," she corrected firmly, taking a step back. "My name is Kate." She didn't wait for his response. With her spine straight and her head held impossibly high, Kate turned and walked through the parted crowd. People reached out to touch her arm, to congratulate her, to ask questions, but she kept moving, one foot in front of the other, just like her mother had taught her. Behind her, she heard Bruce finally stand. Heard the rustle of his expensive suit, the clearing of his throat as he tried to regain control of his gala. But his voice sounded different now, smaller, uncertain. Kate pushed through the ballroom doors and didn't look back. Mrs. Chun was waiting in the service hallway, her face an unreadable mask. For a moment, Kate thought she saw approval in the older woman's eyes. But then Mrs. Chen's phone buzzed, and whatever warmth had been there vanished instantly. "Kate," she said, her voice clipped and professional. "We need to talk. Tomorrow. My office. 9 a.m. sharp." Kate nodded, too emotionally drained to argue. She grabbed her things from the staff room and slipped out the service entrance into the cool New York night. The city lights blurred through her unshed tears as she walked to the subway. She'd just danced in front of New York's elite. She'd humiliated a billionaire. She'd revealed her mother's legacy to a room full of strangers. And somehow, she'd never felt more alive. The notification sound woke Kate at 6:47 a.m. Then another. And another. And another. Groaning, she reached for her phone, squinting at the sudden brightness. Her lock screen was flooded with notifications. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, even LinkedIn. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. With trembling fingers, she unlocked her phone and opened Instagram. Her follower count was climbing in real time. 47,832. 47,955. 48,103. What the hell? She whispered to her empty apartment. She clicked on her mentions and her stomach dropped. The video was everywhere. Waitress destroys arrogant billionaire in epic tango battle. One caption read. Another, this is what happens when you underestimate the help woman dancing fire. The hashtags were multiplying by the second. Hashtag Tango Revenge, hashtag Waitress versus Billionaire, hashtag Bruce Larson humiliated, hashtag Daughter of Legend. Kate clicked on one video. It had been filmed by someone near the dance floor. The angle perfect. The quality surprisingly crisp. She watched herself. Watched this confident, powerful woman she barely recognized. Lead Bruce through the tango. Watched him stumble. Watched her catch him with devastating grace. The comments section was a war zone. She ate him up and left no crumbs, loudly crying face. Rich people need this energy daily. Okay, but who is she? Queen behavior, honestly. The daughter of Benita Shawman? The Benita Shawman? This makes so much sense. That man has never been humbled in his life until last night. Kate's phone buzzed with an incoming call. Mrs. Chun. With a sinking feeling in her stomach, Kate answered. Kate. Mrs. Chen's voice was ice. I'm sorry, but I can't wait until 9. You're fired. Effective immediately. Don't bother coming to the office. What? Kate sat up, suddenly fully awake. Mrs. Chun, I just danced. I didn't do anything wrong. You made headlines. You went viral. You humiliated one of our biggest clients in front of 500 guests and millions of viewers online. Mrs. Chen's voice cracked slightly, revealing something that might have been regret. Our clients pay for discretion, Kate. They pay to be invisible in plain sight. What you did last night, you turned their private gala into a circus. He challenged me. And you should have walked away. You should have apologized and disappeared. That's what we do in this industry. We don't make ourselves the story. Mrs. Chun sighed. I'm sorry, Kate. Truly. But I have no choice. You're done. The call ended. Kate stared at her phone, the notification still flooding in, and let out a laugh. It started small, just a bitter chuckle, but grew until she was laughing so hard her stomach hurt. Humiliating arrogant billionaires, she said to her empty apartment, apparently isn't on the menu. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Miss Shawman, I hope you're well. I'd like to discuss a business opportunity. Please call at your earliest convenience. BL. Kate deleted it without responding. Then another text arrived. And another. 5 texts from different numbers, all with the same message, all signed BL. Bruce Larson wasn't giving up. If you're enjoying Kate's story so far, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. And if you won't subscribe, at least tell us why in the comments. We'd love to know. Now, let's see what Bruce Larson wants. By noon, Kate had 17 missed calls from Bruce Larson's office, 43 interview requests from various media outlets, and a job offer from a dance studio in Brooklyn that had seen the video. By 3 p.m., her view count had crossed 5 million. By 7 p.m., she was trending on Twitter in 4 countries. And by 9 p.m., when the elegant cream envelope slid under her apartment door, Kate had officially given up trying to process the insanity that her life had become in less than 24 hours. She picked up the envelope. Heavy paper. Expensive. The kind rich people used to prove they had better stationery than you did. Inside, a handwritten note in flawless cursive. Miss Shawman. I understand you may not wish to hear from me after last night's events. However, I find myself in need of a tango instructor, and I believe you are uniquely qualified for the position. I have an important international gala in 6 weeks. There will be a dance performance. If I fail to perform adequately, I will lose a significant business contract. I am willing to pay $50,000 for 6 weeks of private lessons. I know you have every reason to refuse, but I hope you'll at least consider the offer. Sincerely, Bruce Larson. Kate read the letter 3 times. Then she crumpled it into a ball and threw it in the trash. $50,000. That was more than she'd make in a year working 3 jobs. That was her medical debt paid off. That was breathing room. That was freedom. But it was also Bruce Larson. Arrogant, entitled, insufferable Bruce Larson, who thought he could buy anything, including her forgiveness. No. Absolutely not. Her phone buzzed. Another letter had arrived. She opened it to find the same message, but this time with a postscript. P.S. I realize money isn't everything. I also owe you an apology. Would you allow me to deliver it in person? Kate threw that one in the trash too. But when the 5th letter arrived the next day, this one containing a blank check with Bruce Larson's signature already at the bottom, Kate sat down on her worn couch and stared at that thin piece of paper for a very long time. The rent was due in 3 days. Her student loans were overdue. Her mother's remaining medical bills were in collections. And Bruce Larson was offering her a way out. I'm going to regret this, Kate muttered to herself. But she picked up her phone anyway and dialed the number from the letters. A professional voice answered immediately. Mr. Larson's office. Kate took a deep breath. This is Kate Shawman. Tell your boss I accept his offer. But on my terms. Tell him to have a contract ready tomorrow. My contract. My rules. There was a brief pause. Of course, Miss Shawman. Mr. Larson will be pleased. Shall we say 2 p.m. at his office? 2 p.m., Kate confirmed. And tell him if he's even 1 minute late, the deal is off. She hung up before the secretary could respond. Kate Shawman, unemployed waitress and accidental viral sensation, had just agreed to teach tango to the man she'd humiliated in front of the entire world. What could possibly go wrong? The next afternoon, Kate stood outside the sleek glass tower that housed Larson Technologies. 47 floors of steel, money, and power. She'd passed this building 100 times, never imagining she'd actually walk through its doors. Now here she was, wearing her only professional outfit, a simple black blazer and slacks she'd bought at a thrift store 3 years ago, about to negotiate with a billionaire. The lobby was all marble and minimalism. A security guard directed her to the express elevator. 47th floor. Mr. Larson is expecting you. The elevator ride felt like ascending to another planet. When the doors opened, Kate stepped into a space that looked more like an art gallery than an office. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of Manhattan that probably cost more per square foot than her entire apartment. Miss Shawman. A polished woman in her early 30s approached, her smile professional but cold. I'm Monica, Mr. Larson's executive assistant. He's ready for you. Kate followed Monica down a hallway lined with awards and magazine covers featuring Bruce's face. Each one seemed to radiate the same message: I'm important. I'm powerful. I'm untouchable. Except Kate had already proven he wasn't. Bruce's office was massive, probably bigger than her entire apartment. He stood by the windows, hands in his pockets, staring out at the city. When he turned, Kate noticed he looked different. Tired, maybe. The arrogance was still there, but muted. Miss Shawman. Thank you for coming. He gestured to a conference table. Please sit. Kate remained standing. Let's get one thing straight, Mr. Larson. I'm here because I need the money, not because I like you or trust you. So let's skip the pleasantries. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or amusement. Fair enough. What are your terms? Kate pulled out a folded document from her bag. She'd stayed up until 3 a.m. drafting it. 6 weeks of lessons. 3 days per week. 2 hours per session. You show up on time or I leave. You follow my instructions without argument or I leave. You treat me with respect or... You leave, Bruce finished, a slight smile on his lips. I'm sensing a pattern. I'm serious. So am I. He took the contract, read through it carefully. Kate watched his eyes move across the page, waiting for him to object, to negotiate, to assert his power. Instead, he pulled out a pen and signed. Just like that. Really? Kate couldn't hide her surprise. No negotiations? No lawyers. Your terms are fair. Bruce handed the contract back. Besides, I learned something about you at the gala, Miss Shawman. You don't bluff. If you say you'll leave, you'll leave. So yes, I accept your terms. Kate took the signed contract, trying not to show how much his easy agreement had thrown her off balance. Fine. First lesson is tomorrow. 6 p.m. Where? I've rented a private studio in Midtown. I'll text you the address. He paused. And Miss Shawman? I really am sorry. About the gala. About the way I treated you. It was. He seemed to struggle for the right word. Unforgivable. Kate studied his face, looking for the catch, the manipulation. But all she saw was genuine regret. Apology noted, she said finally. Doesn't mean I forgive you. You'll have to earn that. I intend to. As Kate left the office, Monica watched her with an expression that made Kate's skin prickle. It wasn't quite hostile, but it definitely wasn't friendly either. Outside, Kate called the Brooklyn dance studio that had offered her a part-time position. Between Bruce's money and teaching a few classes, she might actually be able to breathe financially. For the first time in 3 years, the weight on her chest felt a little lighter. The studio Bruce had rented was beautiful, hardwood floors, wall-to-wall mirrors, perfect acoustics. It was also completely empty when Kate arrived the next evening at 5:55 p.m. At 5:59 p.m., Bruce walked in wearing a 3-piece suit. Kate stared at him. You're going to dance in that? I always wear suits. You're going to sweat through that suit in about 10 minutes. Bruce looked genuinely confused. I sweat. Despite herself, Kate laughed. Yes, Mr. Larson. Even billionaires sweat. But fine. Learn the hard way. She turned on the music, a slow, basic tango rhythm, and began teaching him the fundamental steps. Bruce followed along, but his movements were stiff, mechanical. He moved like someone checking items off a to-do list, not like someone feeling the music. Relax your shoulders, Kate instructed. They are relaxed. They look like you're bench pressing an invisible barbell. Are you always this encouraging to your students? Only the ones who pay me $50,000. Kate stopped the music. Look, you hired me because I know what I'm doing. So either listen to me or don't waste my time. Bruce took a deep breath. You're right. I'm sorry. Show me again. They started over. This time, Bruce actually tried to relax. He was still terrible, but at least he was trying. Until his phone rang. Bruce glanced at the screen and his entire demeanor changed. His jaw clenched. His eyes went cold. I need to take this, he said, already walking toward the door. We have 30 minutes left. But Bruce was gone, phone pressed to his ear. Through the studio's glass door, Kate could see him pacing, his body language tense. She moved closer, not quite eavesdropping but definitely curious. "Melissa," Bruce's voice carried through the glass. "I already told you." "No, that's not. Stop calling me." Melissa. Kate knew that name. 3 years ago, it had been all over the tabloids. The socialite who'd left Bruce Larson at the altar. The woman who'd chosen a cello teacher over a billionaire. The conversation ended abruptly. Bruce stood there for a moment, his hand still gripping the phone like he wanted to crush it. Then he straightened his suit jacket and walked back in, his face carefully neutral. "Where were we?" he asked, as if nothing had happened. "Lesson's over," Kate said quietly. "See you next time." "Kate. It's Miss Shawman. And I said we're done." She grabbed her bag and left, but she couldn't stop thinking about the pain she'd seen in his eyes during that phone call. Bruce Larson, she was beginning to realize, wasn't just arrogant. He was wounded. And wounded people, Kate knew from experience, were dangerous, to others and to themselves. Before we continue, take a moment to hit the notification bell icon so you'll know when we post new stories. And drop a comment telling us what you think of Kate and Bruce so far. Are you Team Kate? Let us know. The next lesson was scheduled for 2 days later. Kate arrived early, warming up with basic stretches. When Bruce walked in at exactly 6 p.m., she immediately noticed something was different. He moved like a man carrying the weight of a skyscraper on his shoulders. "Mr. Larson," Kate greeted him neutrally. "Miss Shawman." His voice was flat, emotionless. They began the lesson, but Bruce was worse than before. His steps were heavy, his grip too tight, his entire body fighting against the music instead of flowing with it. "Bruce," Kate stopped the music. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. You're dancing like you want to murder the floor." "I'm fine." His voice was sharp. "Can we just continue?" Kate crossed her arms. "Not until you tell me what's going on." "It's none of your business." "You're right. It's not. But you're wasting both our time dancing like this." She walked to her bag. "When you're ready to actually learn, call me." "Maybe," Bruce said, his voice suddenly loud, "the problem isn't me. Maybe you're just not a good teacher." Kate froze. Slowly, she turned back to face him. "What did you just say?" Bruce's jaw was clenched, his eyes blazing. "You heard me. Maybe the great daughter of Benita Shawman isn't as talented as everyone thinks." The words hung in the air like poison. Kate could feel the anger rising in her chest, hot and dangerous. She dealt with insults her entire life, from people who looked down on her for being poor, for being a waitress, for being invisible. But this was different. "You know what, Mr. Larson?" Kate's voice was quiet but deadly. "I've been insulted by better people than you. But here's the difference. They didn't know any better. You do. You're just too much of a coward to deal with your own emotions, so you lash out at the people trying to help you. You don't know anything about me. I know you're hiding behind your money and your suits because someone hurt you. I know you push people away before they can get close. And I know," Kate stepped closer, "that you're scared of actually being vulnerable." Bruce's face flushed red. "Get out." "Gladly." Kate grabbed her bag. "And when you decide to stop acting like a spoiled child who can't handle his feelings, don't bother calling. I'm done." She slammed the studio door behind her so hard the mirrors rattled. 2 hours later, Kate was sitting in her apartment, eating ice cream straight from the container and questioning every life choice that had led her to this moment, when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't open it. But curiosity won. The message was simple. "Want to know who Melissa really is? Search Bruce Larson Wedding Scandal 2021. Kate's fingers moved almost automatically to her browser. She typed in the search terms and hit enter. The first article that appeared was from the New York Post. Tech billionaire left at the altar. Bride runs off with cello teacher hours before ceremony. Kate clicked. The article was brutal. It detailed how Bruce Larson, at age 31, was set to marry Melissa Ashford, daughter of Boston's prominent Ashford family. The wedding was supposed to be the social event of the season. 2,000 guests. A venue overlooking Central Park. A dress worth more than most people's houses. But 3 hours before the ceremony, Melissa disappeared. She left a handwritten note saying she'd fallen in love with someone else, Damian Pierce, a cello teacher she'd met while planning the wedding music. They'd run off to Vermont together. The media had eaten it alive. Photos of a devastated Bruce leaving the church. Headlines screaming about the billionaire's broken heart. Society pages speculating about whether Bruce would ever recover from the humiliation. Kate kept reading, clicking through article after article. The scandal had apparently changed Bruce. Made him colder. More ruthless in business. More guarded with his personal life. One tabloid quoted an anonymous friend. Bruce used to be different, warmer, more open. But after Melissa, something in him just shut down. It's like he decided that if love was a weakness, he'd turn himself into something that couldn't be hurt again. Kate set her phone down and stared at the ceiling of her apartment. Bruce Larson wasn't just arrogant. He was armored. And that phone call at the studio, Melissa still called him. Still reached out. Still had the power to unravel him. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Bruce's number. I'm sorry about today. I was completely out of line. Can I see you? At the studio. Please. I owe you an explanation. Kate stared at the message for a long time. She should say no. Should let him deal with his demons alone. Should protect herself from getting dragged into whatever mess his life had become. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe empathy, maybe something she didn't want to name, made her type back, 1 hour. And you'd better actually talk this time. When Kate arrived at the studio, Bruce was sitting on the floor, his back against the mirror. His tie was loose, his hair slightly messy, the most undone she'd ever seen him. He looked almost human. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. Kate sat down across from him, maintaining a careful distance. You have one chance to explain. Don't waste it. Bruce nodded. He took a deep breath, then started talking. 3 years ago, I was supposed to get married. Her name was Melissa Ashford. I thought, he stopped, reconsidered. I thought I loved her. Looking back, I'm not sure I did. But I thought we had something real. What happened? She left me. At the altar. Literally hours before the wedding. Bruce's voice was flat, like he was reading a grocery list. She ran off with her cello teacher, a guy who lived in a studio apartment in Brooklyn and taught lessons for $40 an hour. I'm sorry, Kate said, and she meant it. The worst part wasn't even the heartbreak, Bruce continued. It was the humiliation. Everyone knew. Everyone saw. I became a joke. The billionaire who couldn't even keep his own fiancée interested. And after that. He gestured vaguely. I decided I was done. Done trusting people. Done being vulnerable. Done caring. Until I spilled champagne on your shoes, Kate said softly. A ghost of a smile crossed Bruce's face. Until you spilled champagne on my shoes and then proceeded to absolutely destroy me on the dance floor in front of 500 people. Why did you really challenge me that night? Kate asked. Was it really just about the shoes? Bruce was quiet for a moment. No. I challenged you because you looked at me the way everyone used to look at me after Melissa left. With judgment, with contempt. And I wanted to prove that I was still in control. That I could still make someone feel small. He finally met her eyes. Instead, you showed me exactly how small I'd become. And the phone call yesterday? Melissa calls sometimes. Says she's sorry. Says she made a mistake. Asks if we can talk. Bruce's jaw clenched. Yesterday, I was weak. I answered. And hearing her voice again just brought everything back. Kate processed this. So you took it out on me. So I took it out on you. Which was inexcusable. Bruce leaned forward. Kate, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve your trust. But I am genuinely sorry. Not just for today, but for everything. For the gala, for the way I treated you, for being exactly the kind of person you accused me of being. Kate studied his face. He looked tired, vulnerable, real. This wasn't the arrogant billionaire from the gala. This was just a man. A hurt, complicated, messy man. I accept your apology, Kate said finally. But Bruce? If you ever talk to me like that again, if you ever use me as an emotional punching bag, I'm gone. And I won't come back. I understand. And you need to stop answering Melissa's calls. Bruce nodded. I know. I blocked her number. Finally. Good. Kate stood up and extended her hand. So, want to try this again? Teacher and student. No drama. No baggage. Just tango. Bruce took her hand and let her pull him to his feet. I'd like that. Over the next 3 weeks, something shifted between them. Bruce showed up on time. He listened to Kate's instructions. He even started wearing workout clothes instead of suits. And slowly, very slowly, he began to actually dance. More importantly, he began to talk. During water breaks, Bruce would share stories about his childhood, his family, the pressure of running a multi-billion-dollar company. Kate found herself sharing too, about her mother's illness, her abandoned Juilliard dreams, the 3 jobs she'd worked to survive. They laughed together. They argued about music. They debated whether pizza should have pineapple. Bruce said yes. Kate called him a monster. Kate began to see glimpses of the man Bruce must have been before Melissa destroyed his ability to trust. He was actually funny, surprisingly thoughtful, unexpectedly kind. And somewhere in the midst of all those lessons and conversations, something dangerous began to happen. Kate started looking forward to seeing him. On a Thursday night in week 4, Bruce surprised her by inviting her to dinner at his place. I want to thank you, he said, for putting up with me, for teaching me, for not giving up even when I gave you every reason to. Kate hesitated. Every alarm bell in her head was ringing, but she heard herself say yes anyway. Bruce's apartment was stunning, a penthouse with views that made Kate's breath catch. But what surprised her was the kitchen. It was a complete disaster. What happened here? Kate asked, staring at the flour explosion, the burnt smell, the suspicious smoke coming from the oven. I tried to cook. Bruce looked genuinely distressed. I was attempting to make carbonara, but I think I created a biohazard instead. Kate burst out laughing. You, the man who runs a tech empire, can't make pasta? I run a tech empire precisely because I don't cook. I outsource everything. Bruce pulled out a blackened pot. Is carbonara supposed to be crunchy? Oh my God, what did you do? Kate moved to the stove, investigating the carnage. She picked up a spoon, tasted something that vaguely resembled sauce, and immediately made a face. Is there ketchup in this? Maybe. Bruce, carbonara doesn't have ketchup. The recipe said tomato base. That's not carbonara. Kate couldn't stop laughing. Step aside before you poison us both. She took over the kitchen, showing Bruce how to properly cook pasta while he watched, asking questions like an eager student. They worked together, and when Kate accidentally got flour in her hair, Bruce reached out to brush it away. His hand lingered on her cheek. Their eyes met. And before Kate could think, before she could stop herself, Bruce was leaning in. The kiss was soft at first. Tentative. A question. Kate answered by pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, becoming something urgent and real and terrifying. Bruce's hands were in her hair. Kate's fingers clutched his shirt. The pasta was forgotten, the burnt carbonara abandoned, the entire world reduced to this moment, this connection, this overwhelming feeling that maybe, just maybe, she'd found something real. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Bruce rested his forehead against hers. "I wasn't expecting that," he whispered. "Me neither," Kate admitted. "Stay," Bruce said. "Please. Just stay." And Kate was about to say yes, was about to let herself fall completely, when she saw it. On the coffee table, barely visible beneath a magazine, was the corner of a document. The word confidential was printed across the top. Kate pulled away. "What's that?" "What's what?" Bruce followed her gaze and his face went pale. "Kate, wait." But she was already moving to the table, already pulling out the document, already opening the folder. On the folder is written, Kate Shawman Full Background Investigation. Her hands started shaking. The folder contained everything. Her employment history. Her addresses for the past 10 years. Financial records. Medical records from her mother's illness. Old photos, including some from private family albums she kept at home. Photos no one should have had access to. "You investigated me." Kate's voice came out flat. "Dead. I can explain. You had someone dig through my entire life." She flipped through pages, each one feeling like a violation. My jobs. My debts. My mother's medical records. Photos from my childhood. "What the hell is this, Bruce?" "It was before I really knew you," Bruce said desperately. "When you first went viral, I wanted to make sure." "Make sure of what?" Kate's voice rose. "That I wasn't a con artist? That I wasn't going to steal your precious money? That I wasn't some kind of threat? I didn't know you then. You just what, Bruce? Decided you had the right to invade my privacy? To dig through my life like I'm some kind of corporate acquisition?" Tears were streaming down Kate's face now, but she didn't care. "I trusted you. I told you things I haven't told anyone. And this whole time, you already knew everything about me. You had it all written down in a goddamn file." "Kate, please." "Don't." She backed away from him. "Don't touch me. Don't call me. Don't come near me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It was a mistake." "The only mistake," Kate said, her voice breaking, "was mine. For thinking you might actually be different. For thinking a man like you could ever see someone like me as anything other than a transaction." She grabbed her bag and headed for the door. "Kate." Bruce's voice was desperate. "Please. Don't go. Let me make this right." Kate stopped at the door. She turned back one last time, and the pain in her eyes made Bruce physically flinch. "You know what the worst part is," she said quietly. "I was actually starting to care about you. I was starting to think maybe we could be something real. But you don't know how to do real, do you, Bruce? You only know how to buy and sell and investigate and control. You can't just trust someone. You can't just let something happen naturally. You have to know everything, control everything, own everything." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. And I feel so stupid for not seeing it sooner." Kate opened the door. "The contract is terminated. You can keep your money. Find another teacher. Or better yet, learn to dance with someone who doesn't make you feel like you need a full background check first." "Kate, please." But she was already gone, the door slamming behind her with a finality that echoed through the empty penthouse. Bruce stood frozen, surrounded by the ruins of their dinner, the taste of her still on his lips, and the devastating knowledge that he'd just destroyed the best thing that had happened to him in 3 years. The next morning, Kate woke up in her apartment with swollen eyes and an empty feeling in her chest. She'd cried herself to sleep, which she hadn't done since her mother died. And just like after her mother's death, she woke up angry. Angry at Bruce. Angry at herself for trusting him. Angry at the world for making her believe that maybe, just once, something good could happen without strings attached. Her phone was full of missed calls and texts from Bruce. She deleted them all without reading. She was done. Meanwhile, across the city, Bruce sat in his office staring at nothing. His assistant Monica had tried 3 times to brief him on important meetings. He'd waved her away each time. All he could think about was Kate's face when she'd found that file. The betrayal. The pain. The way she'd looked at him like he was exactly what she'd feared he was all along. A knock on the door. Thomas, the private investigator who'd compiled the dossier, entered looking uncomfortable. "Mr. Larson, I have an update on the Shawman file." "Get rid of it," Bruce said. "All of it. Every copy." "Sir." "You heard me. Destroy it. And Thomas? You're done. Send me your final invoice." Thomas nodded and left. Alone again, Bruce pulled up Kate's contact on his phone. His finger hovered over the call button. But what could he say? What words could possibly undo what he'd done? He set the phone down. And that's when Monica entered with another folder. "Mr. Larson, you need to see this." Bruce glanced at the tab. Kate Shawman extended background report. His blood ran cold. "Where did you get this?" "I commissioned it. After the first investigation. I thought you'd want more information." "You did what?" Bruce stood, his voice dangerously quiet. Monica stepped back. "I was trying to help. I noticed some inconsistencies in her family history, so I dug deeper. And I found something important." She opened the folder to a page marked with a red tab. Bruce looked down and his world tilted. Father, Leonard Pearson status, abandoned family in 2010 current position, managing partner, Pearson Investment Group connection, primary investor in Larson Technologies. "This can't be right," Bruce whispered. But the documents didn't lie. Photos of a young Kate with her mother and a man in a business suit. Public records. Financial trails. It all pointed to the same impossible truth. Kate's father was Leonard Pearson, one of Bruce's biggest investors. The man Bruce had dinner with quarterly. The man whose capital was essential to the company. "There's more," Monica said quietly. "Leonard has been making inquiries about you and Kate. He knows about the lessons. And according to my sources, he's not happy." Bruce sank into his chair. "Get out." "Mr. Larson." "I said get out." Monica left, but Bruce barely noticed. He stared at the documents, his mind racing. Kate didn't know. She clearly had no idea her father was this close, this involved in Bruce's business. She'd told Bruce her father had abandoned them when she was 12, that she hadn't seen or heard from him since. Did Leonard know his daughter had been working as a waitress? That she'd been drowning in debt while he lived in a penthouse and invested millions? Bruce's phone buzzed. A message from his board secretary. Emergency board meeting called for Friday 10 a.m. Leonard Pearson has called for a vote of no confidence. He's trying to remove you as CEO. Bruce closed his eyes. Everything was falling apart. 3 days later, Kate was wiping down tables at a small cafe in Cape Haven, a quiet coastal town 3 hours north of the city. She'd packed a bag the morning after finding that file. Couldn't stand another day in New York where everything reminded her of Bruce. George, the cafe owner, had hired her on the spot when she'd walked in asking about the help wanted sign. He was a kind man in his 60s who asked no questions and seemed to understand that sometimes people needed to disappear for a while. The town was peaceful. The ocean was calm. And for the first time since the gala, Kate felt like she could breathe. She was refilling salt shakers when the bell above the door chimed. Kate looked up and froze. Bruce Larson stood in the doorway, looking exhausted and desperate and completely out of place in his expensive suit among the cafe's fishing nets and driftwood decor. "Kate," he said. "No." Kate set down the salt shaker. "Absolutely not. How did you even find me?" "I hired someone," he stopped himself, seeing her expression. "I'm sorry. That was the wrong thing to say. Kate, please. I need to talk to you." "I have nothing to say to you. I didn't come here to apologize. I mean, I do apologize, but that's not why I came." Bruce stepped closer. "I came because you need to know something. About your father." Kate's blood ran cold. "What about my father? Can we go somewhere private?" "No. Whatever you have to say it here." Bruce glanced around at the few customers, then back at Kate. "Your father is Leonard Pearson." "I know that. He's one of my primary investors. Has been for 4 years." The words hit Kate like a physical blow. "What?" "Leonard Pearson. Managing partner at Pearson Investment Group. He owns nearly 20% of my company." Bruce pulled out his phone, showed her a photo from a corporate event. "This is him." Kate stared at the picture. The man was older, grayer, but she'd know that face anywhere. It was the face from her childhood memories, the face that had walked out when her mother got sick. "He works with you," Kate said, her voice hollow. "Not just works with me. He's trying to destroy me." Bruce put his phone away. He called an emergency board meeting. "He's attempting to force me out as CEO." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think he found out about us. About the lessons. And I think," Bruce hesitated, "I think he's doing this because of you." Kate laughed, but it sounded broken. "That's insane. My father abandoned me 15 years ago. He doesn't care about me." "Kate, I don't think you understand. After you left, my secretary did more digging. She found out Leonard has been tracking you. Not obviously, but he's been aware of your life. Where you work. Where you live." "Stop. Just stop." Kate backed away. "You're telling me that my father, who left my mother to die alone, who disappeared without a word, has been watching me this whole time and did nothing? I know how this sounds." "You don't know anything." Kate's voice cracked. "You show up here with your investigations and your files and your theories, and you expect me to what? Thank you? Come back to New York with you. I came here because I thought you deserved to know. And because..." Bruce took a breath. "Because your father is going to use this against both of us. The board meeting is tomorrow. If you're there, if you confront him publicly, we might be able to stop this." "We." Kate stared at him. "There is no we, Bruce. You investigated me. You violated my privacy. You proved you're exactly the kind of man I should stay away from." "I know. And I don't deserve your help. But Kate, this isn't just about me. This is about your father finally facing what he did to you and your mother." Kate was quiet for a long moment. "Get out." "Kate." "I said get out. And don't come back." Bruce looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Kate's eyes stopped him. He nodded once and left. Kate stood in the middle of the cafe, shaking. George appeared from the kitchen. "You okay, kid?" "No," Kate said honestly. "But I will be." That night, Kate lay in her small rented room above the cafe, staring at the ceiling. She thought about her mother. About the years of struggling alone. About working 3 jobs while that man, her father, lived in luxury just miles away. Things are getting intense. What do you think Kate should do? Comment below. And if this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and share it with someone who loves a good romance. Bruce had said the meeting was tomorrow at 10 a.m. Kate looked at the clock. It was already past midnight. If she left now, she could make it to New York by morning. She sat up. This wasn't about Bruce. This was about her. About her mother. About 15 years of abandonment and silence. Kate grabbed her phone and booked a bus ticket. It was time to face Leonard Pearson. The Larson Technologies boardroom was designed to intimidate. 30 floors up, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, a table that could seat 20 people comfortably. When Kate walked in at 9:45 a.m., every head turned. She'd worn her mother's dress, a simple but elegant black sheath that Benita had worn to performances. It made Kate feel armored. Strong. Bruce was at one end of the table, looking exhausted. And at the other end, in the power position, sat a man Kate hadn't seen in 15 years. Leonard Pearson had aged well. Distinguished gray at his temples. An expensive suit. The confidence of a man who'd never been held accountable for anything. Their eyes met across the table, and Kate watched her father's face drain of color. Kate. His voice was barely a whisper. "Hello, Father." Kate's voice was steady, though her heart was hammering. "Surprised to see me?" Leonard stood slowly. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here," Kate said, walking further into the room, "because apparently you're trying to destroy Mr. Larson's company. And I wanted to know why. This is a private board meeting." "I'm aware." Kate stopped at the table. "Mr. Larson invited me. Said you were calling for a vote of no confidence. Said you claimed he was engaging in inappropriate behavior and poor business judgment. So I'm curious, what exactly is your evidence?" Leonard's jaw clenched. "This doesn't concern you." "Doesn't it?" "Because from what I understand, your whole case is built on the fact that Bruce hired me. That he paid me to teach him to dance. And you think that's somehow proof of poor judgment." A murmur went through the other board members. They looked at Leonard expectantly. "My objection," Leonard said carefully, "is that Mr. Larson has allowed his personal life to interfere with his professional responsibilities." "That's interesting," Kate interrupted, "coming from a man who abandoned his family when his wife got cancer because it was too inconvenient for his career." Dead silence. Leonard's face turned red. "You have no right." "No right? I have every right." Kate stepped closer. "My name is Kate Shawman. Leonard Pearson is my father. He walked out on me and my mother when I was 12 years old. My mother, Benita Shawman, was a legendary dancer before she got sick. She died 3 years ago, drowning in medical debt, while this man," Kate gestured at Leonard, "lived in a penthouse and invested millions in companies." She turned to address the other board members. "You want to know why Leonard is really doing this? It's not because he cares about Larson Technologies. It's because he found out that Bruce hired me, his abandoned daughter, and he's trying to protect his reputation. He's trying to control the narrative before anyone finds out he's the kind of man who leaves his family when things get difficult." "That's not true," Leonard said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Isn't it?" Bruce spoke for the first time. He pulled out a folder, the one Monica had compiled. "This is your history, Leonard. 3 years before you left Kate and her mother, you were accused of financial fraud. The charges were dropped, but only because you paid a substantial settlement. 2 years after you left them, you remarried, to the daughter of a major investor. Very convenient timing." He pulled out another document. "And this is a letter you sent me 3 years ago, offering me a bribe to sign a contract with a company that was later convicted of fraud. I refused. You've been trying to undermine me ever since." Leonard's face had gone from red to pale. This is slander." "It's a documented fact," Bruce said calmly. "And if you push this vote, I'll make sure every word of it becomes public record." Kate watched her father, this man who'd haunted her memories for 15 years, deflate like a punctured tire. You had no right to enter his life, Leonard said to Kate, his voice desperate now. I was trying to protect you. Protect me. Kate's voice rose. You didn't protect me when Mom was dying. You didn't protect me when I had to drop out of Juilliard to take care of her. You didn't protect me when I was working 3 jobs just to survive. You don't get to pretend you care now. I do care. Leonard's voice cracked. I've always cared. I didn't know how to face you after what I'd done. So you watched from a distance? Kate felt tears threatening but refused to let them fall. You kept tabs on me but never reached out? That's not love, Father. That's cowardice. One of the other board members, an older man named William, cleared his throat. Mr. Pearson, I think it's clear that your motivations here are personal, not professional. This vote of no confidence is denied. Leonard looked around the table, seeing the judgment in every face. Leonard, Bruce said quietly, you need to leave. Now. Kate watched her father gather his things, his hands shaking. As he reached the door, he turned back. Kate, I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I am truly deeply sorry. Kate met his eyes. Sorry doesn't change anything. But if you want a chance to make things right, you'll start by being honest. About why you left. About the choices you made. And maybe eventually we can talk. But not now. Not like this. Leonard nodded, his eyes wet, and left. The room stayed silent for a moment. Then William spoke again. Miss Shawman, on behalf of the board, I apologize that you were dragged into this. And I'd like to thank you for your honesty. It takes courage to confront the past like that. Kate nodded, not trusting her voice. The board members filed out, leaving Kate and Bruce alone. Thank you, Bruce said softly. For coming. For doing that. You didn't have to. I didn't do it for you, Kate replied. But her voice was gentler than before. I did it for me. And for my mother. I know. Bruce stood, keeping distance between them. Kate, I know I broke your trust. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I want you to know that I've spent every day since you left thinking about what I did wrong. And I swear to you, I will never make that mistake again. Kate studied him. He looked genuine, vulnerable. Nothing like the arrogant billionaire from the gala. I need time, she said finally. What you did, it hurt. And I can't just forget that. I understand. But, Kate continued, maybe eventually we could try again. Not as teacher and student. Maybe just as people who are figuring things out. A tentative smile crossed Bruce's face. I'd like that. There's one condition, though. Anything. Kate pulled out her phone and showed him a screen. This came yesterday. It's an offer from a dance company in Buenos Aires. My mother's old company. They want me to perform in a showcase at the Teatro Colón. It's everything I've ever dreamed of. Bruce's smile faltered slightly, but he recovered. Kate, that's incredible. When do you leave? In 2 weeks. I'll be gone for at least a month, maybe longer depending on how it goes. She watched his reaction carefully. And I need to know that if I go, you'll be okay with it. That you won't see it as me running away. I don't see it that way at all. This is your dream. Your mother's legacy. Bruce stepped closer. But can I ask one thing? What? Can I come? To the performance? I promise to sit quietly in the audience and not make a scene. Kate felt her heart squeeze. You'd fly to Buenos Aires just to watch me dance? Kate, I'd fly to the moon if you were dancing there. She laughed despite herself. That was cheesy. I know, but I meant it. Kate looked at this man who'd investigated her, hurt her, but also showed up when she needed him, who'd supported her confrontation with her father instead of trying to stop her, who was offering to fly across the world just to see her perform. Maybe people could change. Maybe trust could be rebuilt. Okay, she said. Come to Buenos Aires. Front row. But Bruce? No more investigating. No more secrets. If we're going to try this, whatever this is, we do it honestly. No more secrets, Bruce agreed. I promise. 2 weeks later at Buenos Aires. The Teatro Colón was everything Kate had dreamed it would be. Grand. Historic. Perfect. Her mother had danced on this very stage 40 years ago, and now Kate was about to as well. Backstage, Kate adjusted her costume, a stunning red dress that flowed like water when she moved. She could hear the audience filing in, the excited murmur of nearly 3,000 people. Eduardo, the artistic director, poked his head into her dressing room. 5 minutes, Kate. You ready? Ready, she said, though her heart was racing. Your mother would be so proud, Eduardo said softly. I saw her dance here once, when I was just a boy. You have her gift. Kate smiled through sudden tears. Thank you. She walked to the wings, peering out at the audience. The theater was packed. Every seat filled. And there, in the very front row, center seat, sat Bruce Larson. He'd kept his promise. Their eyes met across the distance. He smiled and gave a small wave. Kate felt something warm bloom in her chest. Maybe this was what her mother had meant when she'd said dance was in her blood. Not just the physical movement, but the courage to be vulnerable, to perform your truth in front of the world. The lights dimmed. The music started. Kate walked onto the stage. The applause was immediate and thunderous. She took her position, waiting for the tango music to begin. And then she danced. She danced for her mother, who taught her that grace wasn't about perfection, but about getting back up every time you fell. She danced for herself, for the girl who'd served champagne at galas, while dreams gathered dust in her closet. She danced for every person who'd ever been told they weren't good enough, rich enough, connected enough to chase their dreams. But mostly, she danced for the pure joy of it. Every step told a story. Every turn released a memory. Every movement was both a goodbye to the past and a hello to the future. When the final note played and Kate struck her closing pose, the theater erupted. People jumped to their feet. Whistles and cheers echoed off the ornate ceiling. Flowers began appearing on the stage as audience members threw bouquets. Kate took her bow, tears streaming freely now. She looked at the front row. Bruce was on his feet, clapping so hard it must have hurt, his face showing emotion she'd never seen before. Pride. Joy. Love. She'd been so certain he'd leave during the performance like he'd done during her other moments of triumph. But here he was. Still here. Still clapping. Still looking at her like she was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen. The curtain fell. Kate stood backstage, shaking, as the applause continued beyond the curtain. Eduardo rushed over. Kate. That was magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. The company wants to offer you a permanent contract. Full season. Principal dancer. I what? Kate could barely process it. They want you. Starting next month. Say yes. It was everything. The dream. The career. The life her mother had wanted for her. Can I think about it? Kate asked. Eduardo looked surprised but nodded. Of course. Take a few days. But Kate? Opportunities like this don't come often. Kate thanked him and headed to her dressing room. She'd barely closed the door when there was a knock. Come in. Bruce entered, still in his suit from the audience, holding an enormous bouquet of red roses. You were incredible, he said simply. I don't have words. You came, Kate said, her voice thick with emotion. Of course I came. I promised. Bruce set down the flowers and stepped closer. Kate, I need to tell you something. I know you have a decision to make about the contract, and I don't want to influence you, but while you were performing, I realized something. I've spent the last 3 years building walls, protecting myself, making sure no one could hurt me again. And then you spilled champagne on my shoes and somehow broke through every single wall in one night. Kate smiled through tears. I'm pretty good at breaking things. You're pretty good at fixing things too. You fixed me. You made me remember what it feels like to care about something other than money and power and control. You made me remember what it feels like to be human. Bruce. Let me finish. He took her hands. If you take that contract, if you stay here in Buenos Aires, I will support you. I'll come visit whenever you want. I'll be your biggest fan. I'll make it work because you deserve this dream. But I'm also selfish enough to hope that maybe, eventually, you might come back to New York. Because I've fallen in love with you, Kate. Completely. Terrifyingly. And I know I don't deserve you. And I know I've given you every reason not to trust me, but I had to tell you. Kate looked at this man, this complicated, flawed, wonderful man, and felt her heart make a decision her head hadn't quite caught up to yet. What if there was a third option? She asked quietly. What do you mean? Kate took a deep breath. What if I performed here for 1 season, got to honor my mother's legacy, got to dance on the stages she danced on, and then came back to New York? Not to hide, not to go back to being invisible, but to build something new, to teach, to create a foundation that helps dancers like me who can't afford the training. Bruce's eyes widened. You'd come back. I'd come back. For me. For the students I could help. And Kate stepped closer for you. Because I've fallen in love with you too, you ridiculous man. Despite my better judgment. Despite everything that's happened. Kate. She kissed him before he could finish. A kiss that tasted like tears and roses and new beginnings. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. So, Bruce said, 1 season in Buenos Aires, then back to New York. 1 season. And Bruce? When I come back, you're going to help me build that foundation. Your money, my expertise, and absolutely no secret investigations. Deal. He kissed her again. Although I have to say, watching you dance tonight, I realized something else. What? I still can't dance. At all. Even after all your lessons. Kate laughed. You're terrible. Truly terrible. I know. So when we get back to New York, I'm going to need more lessons. Lots more lessons. Possibly for the rest of my life. Is that your way of proposing? Bruce suddenly looked nervous. Would you say yes if it was? Kate pretended to think about it. Ask me again after the season ends. When I come back to New York. When we've had time to build something real. I can wait, Bruce said. I'm good at waiting now. You taught me that. They stood there in Kate's dressing room, holding each other, while outside the theater the Buenos Aires night sparkled with possibility. 6 months later they were in New York. The Benita Shawman Dance Foundation's grand opening was everything Kate had dreamed of and more. The converted warehouse in Brooklyn now housed 3 studios, administrative offices, and a small theater. Scholarships had been awarded to 15 students. The board included professional dancers, choreographers, and one reformed billionaire who still couldn't dance but showed up to every class anyway. Kate stood at the entrance, greeting guests, when a familiar face appeared. Leonard Pearson, looking older and smaller than she remembered, stood nervously at the door. Kate, he said quietly. I know I wasn't invited, but I wanted to. I brought a donation. For the foundation. It's not much compared to. It's enough, Kate said. She didn't hug him. didn't invite him in. But she didn't turn him away either. Thank you. Your mother would be so proud, Leonard said, his voice breaking. I'm sorry I never told her that when she was alive. She knew, Kate said softly. She knew her own worth. That's what she taught me. Leonard nodded and left, but Kate felt something loosen in her chest. Forgiveness was a process, not an event. Maybe someday they'd have a relationship. Maybe not. But at least the door was open. Inside the studio, Bruce was attempting to demonstrate a basic tango step to a group of laughing teenagers. He was still terrible, but he was trying, and the kids loved him for it. Kate walked over and took his hand. May I cut in? Please, Bruce said gratefully. Save me. The teenagers formed a circle around them as Kate and Bruce danced. It wasn't perfect. Bruce still stepped on her toes occasionally. But it was real. Honest. Full of laughter and love and the promise of a future they were building together. When the music ended, Bruce got down on one knee right there in the middle of the studio floor. The teenagers gasped. Kate Shawman, Bruce said, pulling out a small box. I've asked you to dance with me twice now. Once out of arrogance. Once out of love. Now I'm asking you to dance with me for the rest of our lives. Will you marry me? Kate looked at this man who'd started as her adversary, become her student, then her friend, and finally her partner. She thought about the girl who'd spilled champagne on his shoes and the woman she'd become since then. On one condition, Kate said, smiling through tears. Anything. You have to promise to keep taking dance lessons. Because you're still terrible. I promise, Bruce laughed. I'll be your worst student forever. Then yes. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on her finger and stood to kiss her while the teenagers cheered and the studio erupted in applause. Somewhere, Kate thought, her mother was smiling. Because Kate had done what Benita always hoped she would. She'd danced. She'd fought. She'd refused to bow her head. And in the end, she'd won not just the dance, but the life she deserved. What did you think of Kate and Bruce's story? Rate it from 0 to 10 in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more incredibly heartwarming stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and remember, never let anyone make you feel invisible. Dance like the world is watching, because sometimes the right person is. Until tomorrow, take care.